Yeah, so CJ Stroud, he's arrived. CJ Stroud has arrived. We talked about this last week with Vinny, but CJ Stroud, man, welcome to the NFL. He's the first quarterback this year that has made it to the club. When I say made it to the club is the guys who I view as legit starters. And I think on average there's between 20 and 25 guys in the club. Right now, I'd say, I mean, if you count the injured guys, because Aaron and Kirk are in the club, and Matt Stafford's in the club, but those three guys are all injured right now. So if you count those three, then I think you're looking at about 23 quarterbacks in the club. I think Tannehill and Jimmy G and Daniel Jones are all out of the club. They were in the club at the start of the year. They're out of it. And the first quarterback who is now entered into the club is CJ freaking Stroud. This guy's putting up numbers that are rivaling Herbert's numbers from 3 years ago. He's on pace to have maybe the best rookie season we've ever seen a quarterback have. The stats were not as good against the Bengals. Obviously, his great game was against Tampa last week when he goes 5 touchdowns, 470 yards, 30 for 42. That was his arrival. But last week, not too shabby either. Dominates the Bengals, only throws 1 touchdown, 1 pick, but he also rushed for a touchdown. He also threw for 350 yards, 23 for 39, so the completion percentage wasn't as good, but he led his team to a big win, and I now view the Texans as a playoff team. I think the Bengals are going to make it too, but I think the Texans are a playoff team. So right now they're the 7th seed, Cleveland's the 6th, Cincinnati's the 5, and Pittsburgh's the 5. I think when it's all said and done, Cleveland's going to grab the 5th spot, Cincinnati's going to get into the 6th spot, Pittsburgh's going to drop out of the playoffs, and the Texans are going to end up as your 7th seed. So I think the Texans are a playoff team right now today. I think they're better than Buffalo. I think they are better than Pittsburgh. And I think they play Pittsburgh at some point. And so they'll have a chance to prove that. Let me look at the schedule. Oh, they already beat Pittsburgh. Yeah. The Texans already beat Pittsburgh. So they're better than Pittsburgh. They'd have that tiebreaker. I think they're better than Buffalo right now. I think they're better than the Broncos, better than the Colts. So I think they're a playoff team. And I think CJ Stroud, I mean, he's obviously the rookie of the year. People are saying, is he in the MVP conversation? I don't know if I'd go that far. But if he gets hot, they could certainly win it. And again, you look at their schedule, it's not that tough of a schedule. Like, they play the Cardinals. They play the Cardinals next. They can win that. Then it's Jacksonville. They already beat them. Then it's the Broncos, the Jets, the Titans, the Browns, the Titans again, and the Colts. So the Browns will be their toughest. They have the Browns and the Jaguars. So they have 8 games to go, and 6 of those 8 games are against teams with a losing record. They could make a run. I mean, they could make a serious run. If they go 6-2, they win 11 games. I think 10. I think they can win 10, maybe even 11. This is a real team. This is a real good football team. The Houston Texans, they are legit. They have arrived. They arrived, I think, a year early. And I think next year they're going to be scary as any. And CJ Stroud, doing what no Ohio State quarterback has ever done. He is in the club. He has made it. Like, welcome to the NFL, CJ Stroud. You're in the MVP conversation, man. I don't think you're a top 5. I don't think he's in the top 5. I think the top 5 is same as last week. Jalen, Josh Allen, Mahomes, Lamar. I mean, and it's interesting. Then you look at the MVP case, really, because Mahomes is the front runner, and he probably has had the best stats, but he also leads the league in turnovers. And he also won it last year, and so there's going to be people who don't want him to win it again. And he has had a few bad games. And then it's Jalen, who I think Jalen would be my MVP right now if we voted on it, if I had a vote. But Jalen, the problem is, I put a lot more value into all of his rushing touchdowns than a lot of people do. A lot of people say those shouldn't count towards his, because I look at it and say Jalen has more total touchdowns than anybody else because he's rushing for touchdowns. People say, well, if the push, it shouldn't count. I think it should. I think if every quarterback could do it, every quarterback would be doing it, and they're not all doing it because they can't all do it. So I think Jalen is right there. And obviously his team is 8-1, and he's playing really well. And then Tua, is the third guy who I think should be a finalist. Then you got, and obviously, I mean, Tua's had an incredible season. Then you got Lamar, whose team is good, despite Lamar really not doing very much statistically for his team. And then the opposite is true with Josh Allen. Josh Allen's team is not very good. They're 5-5. They're barely alive. And yet Josh Allen is doing everything to carry his team on his back. And he has all the numbers. Whereas Lamar doesn't have the numbers, but Lamar has the wins. Allen has the numbers, but not the wins. So it's a different story. And I think those are the 5 guys that I still kind of view as my top tier candidates. And then, I think, could Dak go on a run? Could Joe Burrow go on a run? Could Herbert? Could CJ Stroud go on a run? Could Brock Purdy go on a run? Could Trevor Lawrence go on a run? I mean, there's another about 6 or 7 guys who I'm like, could I see it happening? I could see it. Yes, I could see Brock Purdy going on a run. I could see Dak going on an incredible run and working his way into the finalists for MVP. But right now, I'm not going to bet on it. I'm not going to bet on Jared Goff being an MVP finalist, even though right now he's pretty close to the rest of them. But I'm not going to bet on that because it's Jared Goff. You know what I mean? But that's my take on the MVP. I don't think CJ's in that upper tier yet, but he's in the same level as Trevor. He's in the same level as Brock Purdy. He's in the same level, and that's a respectable level to be at. Where it's like, I don't think he's the MVP, but if he has 4 good games in a row at the end of the season, and he puts on a show and his team makes the playoffs and gets a good seed, then anything's possible. So I'm not counting him out of the race, but I'm not counting him necessarily into the race either. That's what I'll say about CJ Stroud. He's a dark horse. He's still a dark horse at this point. But hey, there's a lot of guys who aren't dark horses, who aren't even close to being dark horses. So from that perspective, congratulations to CJ Stroud. This is Coast to Coast Sports. My name is Levi. Like, subscribe, comment down below. Who do you think should be MVP be? And is CJ Stroud a top-tier quarterback in the NFL already after just 10 games, after just 9 games of his NFL career? We'll see you guys in the next one. This is Coast to Coast Sports.